We are officially less than a week away from the NFL draft. Chiefs Kingdom, I think I have finally done it, and it's took me long enough. I put together one of my favorite mock drafts. What we are going to do today is dive in, discuss each pick, each round, and just analyze it. But before we do that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. We are 5 Tommy Townsend days away from the NFL draft. Chiefs Kingdom, we will be going live all 3 days on this channel. So you already know what to do. Please click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new updates, and subscribe to the channel so that way once we go live, you are ready to go. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I've only been live on this channel once, so there's going to be a lot of new mess ups, but what we're going to do, we're just going to keep pushing. We're going to have fun. We're going to analyze each pick by pick. Also, every Kansas City Chiefs draft pick, and it's going to be a doozy, and we're just going to have fun basically going through this NFL draft. So I do want to see all the Chiefs Kingdom there, and let's just chill. Let's just talk Kansas City Chiefs football. Now, pushing that to the side, we have been focused on this NFL draft for the better part of 2 months now, and I feel like I have finally put together one of my favorite Kansas City Chiefs mock draft. It took me long enough, but we are finally there. So what we're doing today is we're gonna go analyze each one of the selections I have made, try to get my best Brett Veach on, and see how well I did. So let's jump into round one. And before we get into round one, yes, I didn't go crazy. I don't think I will ever go crazy in these mock drafts. That means I did not make any trades. I'm not a GM. I don't know how to value trade assets and things like that. We're just going to stick where we're already slotted, and that is highly going to be unlikely because all of us anticipate the Kansas City Chiefs to trade up. So let's just do what we can do at pick 31 and push forward. And at pick 31, I got the Kansas City Chiefs focused on the D-line at the defensive tackle position. Calijah Kancey, and I think I just pronounced his name wrong just because it rolled off my tongue wrong. It's Calijah Kancey. There we go. We're going to struggle with that one for a little bit. But defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. And if you ask Chiefs Kingdom, their biggest hole on the defensive line is edge rusher. And I can listen to you there a little bit, but if you've been dialed in on this channel throughout the draft months, I think the defensive tackle may be the biggest hole for the Kansas City Chiefs just because they don't have anyone under contract through 2024. Now, yes, we do anticipate that the Kansas City Chiefs will extend Chris Jones, and hopefully this summer. But right now, it's looking pretty slim after Chris Jones. We have Derek Nottie and Tershawn Wharton, and then a couple other basically practice squad guys on this depth roster. Right now, what I've been hoping for, and what I've been hoping for a couple years now, is let's add a Robin to Chris Jones's Batman. Let's have 2 studs dominate the interior line. And that's something Kansas City does. He knows how to get after the quarterback. He knows how to stop the run. And basically, it eliminates 2 holes in my need to where you don't need an edge rusher at that point if you got 2 dominant pass rushing defensive tackles. And if Calijah Kancey is there at 31, I think Kansas City should go after it. Because also, this draft, there is depth to it, but when you focus on the 2nd and 3rd round, to me, I don't really like the talent unlike I like it at the end of the 1st, 2nd round with like a Brian Brees or a Calijah Kancey or a Mozzie Smith. I think those guys are far better than what you can get in like round 3. So I feel like if the Kansas City Chiefs address defensive tackle early, I think that can make Chiefs Kingdom happy, and I think they can wrap their heads around it. Now, we're still going to focus on the line in round 2, but we're going to flip it to the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to get the Kansas City Chiefs a right tackle. Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. I think he will be an immediate day 1 starter if he beats Lucas Niang out of job. And I think that's a huge positive as well because Lucas Niang needs competition. You just can't hand Lucas Niang that job. And that's something that Brett Veach mentioned as well. And it's something where I had a struggle making this pick because Brett Veach was also hyping up Darian Kinnard, saying he loved the growth within the year and he could view him as a right tackle or he could be a guard too. It's all going to play out during training camp. But right now, I wanted to address the right tackle position and maybe even left tackle because Matthew Bergeron, he did start the year. He played 3 games at the left tackle position, and then he transitioned to the right. So you got an interchangeable tackle. And that's something that we should see that Andy Reid loves, where you can move guys around. He loves those swing tackle type of guys, and I think that would help the depth of the Kansas City Chiefs, and specifically at that right tackle hole because they lost Andrew Wiley. And when you have a guy like Lucas Niang, who has unfortunately not been healthy throughout his career, you need a good solid backup or someone who can potentially become a starter because that is a hole you do not want to have. You want Patrick Mahomes to have all day to get to his weapons and be Patrick Mahomes, the best QB in the league. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs address the O-line early. Now, we're going into round number 3. And yes, we're going to get Patrick Mahomes that weapon. And honestly, this dude isn't going to be here. But when you do mock draft simulators, you go with what they give you. And surprisingly, they gave me wide receiver out of Tennessee, Cedric Tillman. Yeah, he ain't going to be there. He probably wouldn't even be there for the Kansas City Chiefs pick in the 2nd round. But let's play along. Let's have fun. And if Cedric Tillman's there in the 3rd round, Brett Veach is running that card up, and he's getting Patrick Mahomes a weapon he's never had before. Someone who is big, lengthy, physical, knows how to get up and get a football and make a play after the ball too. He is everything to me that Quentin Johnston is not. And I'm not trying to throw shots at Quentin Johnston. I just wish he would play his game a little bit like Tillman. You're a big body dude. Go make a play. Show these defenders that you're bigger than them. Quentin Johnston, if he was to do that, he would be easily a top 15 pick. Cedric Tillman too. If he didn't have an unfortunate injury, nobody would question that he wouldn't be a 1st round pick. He might be even one of the top 1 or 2 receivers in this draft. I think it's going to be interesting to see where he's going to be slated because we've even seen mock drafts in the past too where people had the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Tillman in the 1st round. So it's funny, you can be a 1st round pick and you could be mocked in the 3rd. I'm going to have my eyes on Tillman because he is a guy who I really starting to grow on me to where he's a different wide receiver than what the Kansas City Chiefs haven't had. And I think that's what the Chiefs need. You got guys like Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS. Even though MVS is lengthy, he's mostly your speed threat, your home run type of dude. Cedric Tillman could be a great possession, moss the next guy up, and be that physical wide receiver that Patrick Mahomes has never had. And that would just be so much fun to watch. Now, let's go into round 4. And in round 4, I'm focusing on the DB group. I'm going to select cornerback out of Iowa, Riley Moss. I think Riley Moss is a very intriguing pick. Even in round number 4, he's a dude that knows how to make a play on the football. He gets a lot of pass breakups, and also, once he intercepts the ball, he knows what to do with it. He can go to the house. I think he's someone that when you initially draft him, he'll be a great depth piece. But looking in the future, and it's what Chiefs Kingdom has to realize, that's what Brett Veach does a lot, is look into the future. He can be a starter on this team. And I'm going to talk something that a lot of Chiefs Kingdom doesn't want to hear. L'Jarius Sneed's contract is up going into next season, so the Kansas City Chiefs can either decide to extend him or move on from him. And trust me, I really want to extend Sneed. But we got to focus on what Brett Veach does in this draft. And if he focus on this draft in the DB, and it's heavy too, I wouldn't be surprised if he adds and then he sees how they do next year and sees maybe I could trade Sneed for a 2nd round pick. That's what Brett Veach does so well. And unfortunately, Chiefs Kingdom, we fall in love with these dudes. And we always hope everyone gets an extension. And it just doesn't happen. Let's rewind to last year's draft where Brett Veach selected Brian Cook. And we were like, okay, that's an interesting selection, specifically in round 2 because we just signed Justin Reed and we got Juan Thornhill. But he's looking more in the future than anything, and he knew Juan Thornhill's contract is up. And even if he does ball out and we can't afford him, at least we got the next man up. You will never, ever catch Brett Veach sleeping. So that's why if they address DB, don't be shocked if it's something for the future. And also, as we speak about the future, we're going to go into round number 5. And I'm focusing on the tight end position. And I'm going to select, yes, I did it in the prior draft, Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion. This dude is very, very intriguing to me. He's a raw material type of guy, but his athletic ability is off the charts. Literally, it is off the charts. The dude can do anything. He did have an unfortunate injury, but I think this is someone who you can have behind Travis Kelce for a couple years and see what happens. And I think also it adds great competition to that tight end group. Not for Kelce. It might help him a little as well because Kelce loves to be with these young dudes. But at the end of the day, we all have fallen in love with a Noah Gray and a Jody Fortson. And yes, we've fallen in love with their names, but production-wise, what have they done for us lately? And that's what Brett Veach and Coach Reid looks for. If we can't get production out of the guy, the next man up may be coming. And Noah Gray, he had a very solid back half of the year, but we need to see him put a full year in together. And I believe he's going to get your first shot at tight end number 2. And Chiefs Kingdom, we all love Jody Fortson. And I'm basically the biggest driver of that hype train, of that bandwagon. But it's so unfortunate that he can't stay healthy. And if he goes into next year and gets hurt as well, that could be the writing on the wall for him. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping the best for Jody Fortson because he's shown at the limited capability that he's been out there, he can be a difference maker. So I'm hoping that Jody Fortson can be healthy next year, and then he can be your tight end number 2. And if you draft someone like Kuntz in the 5th round, then you just got a solid tight end group to where now you don't got to worry about the future too much. None of these will ever be a Travis Kelce, but the fact that you got 3 tight ends moving forward that you could feel comfortable with is very, very huge and makes Chiefs Kingdom and the Chiefs management feel happy about the future. I know, Chiefs Kingdom, you will be saying, you waited too long to select a pass rusher. Yeah, it is what it is. But the depth in this draft for pass rushers is very, very good, and you can select a good rotational guy in the later parts of day 2 and 3. And that's what I did here. In the 6th round, I selected Dylan Horton out of TCU. This dude is a big body guy. I think he fits everything Spags wants. He's a guy who knows how to get after the quarterback and also how to stop the run. He will be a rotational guy to start off with, which is initially what you need because you're going to have George Karlaftis on the other side, and then you're going to either have Carlos Dunlap or Frank Clark coming back. I highly anticipate that. And then you still got Mike Dana. And then if the Kansas City Chiefs decide to draft a Kalijah Kancey, and then you have Chris Jones, your line is set to where you can draft rotational pieces at this point and get raw, talented guys. And that's exactly what Horton is. If you just need a guy, a big, bully speed rusher coming off the edge on 3rd downs and then groom him to where he can be a good starter, that's what Horton is all about. And also, we aren't done at edge rusher either, so stay tuned because we will address more of that in this draft. But also, as we move forward into the 6th round, I switched on the other side of the ball again, offense, and we focus on the offensive line, and we're selecting guard out of Notre Dame, Jarrett Patterson. This is an interesting pick, Chiefs Kingdom, and as I mentioned earlier in this mock draft, you gotta think like Brett Veach a lot, and he always looks in the future. And this is gonna be another tough one too, but looking at Joe Thuney's position, he is a very, very heavy contract, and he's coming to the near end of that contract as well. So did the Kansas City Chiefs address either adding a backup or his replacement in this draft in the later rounds to where if they want to move on from Thuney, they can plug and fill? And with Patterson, he's the guy who, again, something Andy Reid loves. He's played multiple positions on this line. He's played center and he's played guard to where, yes, that's raw talent. But if you give him a couple years, he may be groomed into a guy that Andy Reid may fall in love with. So again, Chiefs Kingdom, a guard may not be sexy in this draft and we may not need it at the initial eye test. But if you look in the future and you look how rich Joe Thuney's contract is, and again, I don't want to discredit anything Joe Thuney has done for us because he is a dog. He is probably, let me think about it. I would say he is probably our 2nd best offensive lineman behind Creed Humphrey. And that's saying a lot because the Kansas City Chiefs O-line is legit. But what Thuney has done for us, and also when Orlando Brown got hurt and he was able to plug and fill at the left tackle position, he is very, very good for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I can also see a circumstance to where Brett Veach is like, we need to get younger at this position and cheaper. And if that comes to those kind of conclusions, he can be basically replaced, unfortunately, going into 2024. So that's something we got to keep our eyes for and have discussions as we move on throughout this year. Now, we're going to address the pass rusher again, and this is another raw talent type of dude, and Falema Fayoko, yes, pass rusher out of San Jose State. This is a dude, big body guy. What do you expect? He's Polynesian, and I love these type of players where they are relentless. They know how to get after the quarterback. He's also played rotational areas on this defensive line, defensive tackle, and pass rusher. I think this is a good position to get another edge rusher. Whether it be Fayoko or someone else, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs double dip in this position in the draft to where they can have more bodies going into training camp and into preseason. That way, it makes the whole organization happy, and it makes Chiefs Kingdom happy as well, because that's all Chiefs Kingdom has been wanting is pass rushers. And if you can add more bodies to get after the quarterback, at the end of the day, that's what we all want, and I think that would be a solid addition headed into the 7th round. And now that we're headed in the 7th round, I'm going to double dip again, but I'm double dipping at the wide receiver position, and I'm going to go with Jalen Cropper out of Fresno State. This is another dude where it may surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people may think, oh, he will struggle to make the roster, but then he may stand out in training camp and in preseason to where it's like, oh, he may make this team and he may make plays. He's a dude who has been a deep threat, and he has very good hands, and he can attribute to special teams. And that's something that you need to look for in the later rounds of this draft, because as I mentioned, Andy Reid and Dave Toub aren't going to make the same mistakes that they made last year on special teams. It just won't happen. And also, with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore being more involved in the offense, they're not going to be your every game returner. So you need to add someone like this. I know we added Richie James, who will probably handle those duties, but you need depth, because if Richie James gets hurt, then you're like, oh shit, what are we going to do on special teams and who's going to be the returner? Depth is huge for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's why they end up always being Super Bowl contenders and holding up that Lombardi. And speaking of depth, we will finally go into the running back position. But also, this is going to be a very, very fun one too, because we all seen that the Kansas City Chiefs last year, they drafted, I almost said Jerick McKinnon. They have Jerick McKinnon on the team. Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. We're going to do it again. They're going to draft Evan Hull out of Northwestern in the 7th round, their final pick. I think this one's very fun too, because I don't view Hull as a running back, at least an every down running back. What I do view him as a fullback. And that's something that was rare last year, but that the Kansas City Chiefs struggled in. They always want like a Mike Burton or someone to pick up those short yardage. And defenses, they scoped it out. They were stopping the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's why the Chiefs were struggling on 3rd and short and 4th and short, and then they didn't know what to do. A guy like Hull, the reason he's different than Burton is he's kind of your hybrid type of dude. He's got a little bit of speed to him. He's got hands to him as well, to where you can actually involve him more in the game than just your 3rd and shorts. If you want to have 2 backs out there, it would be fun, it would be interesting, and it would keep defenses on their toes. And also, it adds the depth that you need, because we don't know what we're going to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He may be trade bait. Jerick McKinnon, he is not back on the team, but Brett Veach did mention saying that after this draft, he will start making phone calls and try to get these guys like Frank Clark and Jerick McKinnon back on the roster moving forward. So that's enticing to hear. But right now, I got to work with what I'm given with right now. And it's just Isaiah Pacheco and CEH. And we don't know what's going with CEH. So add another dude. But even if you add a dude like Hull, he can be a fullback. And that's something that Andy Reid loves to have. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him a lot last year. So I won't be surprised if they get a guy like this in the 7th round. It would make way too much sense for me. Chiefs Kingdom. That's my 7-round mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. Dissect it. Let me know where I went wrong. Analyze it. Chip it apart. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. And let's talk about some guys you have your eyes on, because in the next 5 days, we're going live. All 3 days. As I mentioned in the start of this video, it's going to be fun, it's going to be intriguing, and I can't wait to see you all there. But before we close this video out, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please give me that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.